Hi, this is Grandad Jack, and we're just here to have a look at how I build the frame of these cabins. So I want to show you how I do that. So to start with, we need some timber. This is framing timber that's been treated for termite protection. That's what the blue colour is. This timber is also stress graded, and here it's called MGP 10, which is equivalent to about an F7 stress grade. So we'll open the pack and we'll start marking out what we've got to do for the cabin. So the first thing I do is take 4 lengths of timber. This timber is 18 foot long or 5.4 metres. And I'm going to use the first 4, and I like to pick some nice straight ones, for the top and bottom wall plates along the back and front. And I've got 2 for each front and back wall. I mark the length of the timber exactly and then just cut it off with my power saw. I use the square to get a nice straight cut. There's a little trick of the trade here. By having the clamps to the underside of the 4 pieces of timber, it's easy to mark where each of the wall studs go without the interference of the clamp. So I mark where each of the studs go. There's 2 in the corner. These ones are marked 1 stud width apart, and that forms an internal corner on the inside. I've then marked the other studs to suit the width of the inside sheet panelling, which is 1.2 metres or 4 foot, so that the joint of the panelling goes half on a stud once you put it up vertically. I've marked where the centre of this wall is because there's another wall that joins here in the middle. So therefore there are studs either side of that joining wall to form an internal corner. So this shows then where each of the studs go. I then mark where there's a door or a window. So the studs are spaced to suit a window width and also the size of the door frame. I then cut the studs for all the walls. The height of the walls are 2.2 metres overall. This has a cathedral ceiling, so it will actually have a 2.7 metre high rake ceiling in the middle, meaning that it forms a pitch. There won't be any trusses in this roof. I'm using my trailer here as a workbench, basically. Makes it a bit easier to work on. So I put the plates, bottom plate towards me there, and then the top plate on the other side. I then just put all the studs where they have to go and get the nail gun out and nail them together. It's also just as easy to do the frames on work trestles. Here at this stage, I'm marking where the middle noggins go. These pieces of timber across the middle stabilise the wall frame and give something to nail the outside and the inside cladding to. I've also put window headers above the window, or lintels as they are called. These just take the weight of the rafters if they happen to fall above a window opening. So I've just stacked all the wall frames on the trailer, ready for transport. I actually nail these together so they don't move while in transit. These are the timber colonial windows that I made that I'll be putting in the front of the cabins, and they're made of treated pine. I've arrived on site and I backed the trailer up next to the cabin floor so I can just slide the frames off and straight onto the flooring. The first thing I will do is I screw these pieces of wood along the edge so that when I stand the frame up, it doesn't slide off the side. At this point, I will also cut in the angle brace and nail that in. I put the angle brace at approximately a 45-degree angle, and I just cut it in with a saw to about 1 inch depth, and then chisel one side, put the angle brace in, and then nail it in. I also screw a length of timber on the side of the frame so that when I lift it up, the frame won't fall over, and I can just screw that to the side of the building and it secures it. I can then get the second frame ready. I'll cut the angle brace into this frame as well. And it's best to do a corner first because then you got the two frames holding each other up. I check the square of the frame by measuring it from one corner to the other corner, and then you do it on both sides, and if the measurement's the same, then the frame is square and ready to put up. Once I lift the wall frames up, I just use a clamp to temporarily hold it until I nail them together. So once the wall frames are up, I can then mark the ridge beam. I put a mark where each of the rafters has to go. I also double plate the top plates around the perimeter of the building. This gives it extra stability and ties the corners of the frames in together. I've pre-cut all the rafters and cut a bird's mouth in where it sits on the plate. The bird's mouth is cut 1/3 into the timber at 30 degrees, the same as the pitch of the roof. I lay the rafters up where I need them to go, and to put the first two up, I simply lift the rafter up and put a block underneath it to give it some support while I nail the first rafter in place where it sits on the top plate. I do the same on the other side, and then I lift the ridge beam up into the centre of the two rafters. I keep the top of the rafter angle cut to the top of the ridge beam. Once I've done that, I simply go down the other end and repeat the same thing. Lift the ridge beam up and then nail it in place. I also put a piece of timber up from the bottom to the top at the end just to keep the ridge beam straight and flush to one end. So this is what it looks like once all the rafters are up and nailed on in place. So this is what it looks like once the frame is up. I still have to do some trim work at the ends and in various places. But basically the frame of the first one is done. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of how I built the frames on these cabins. Next thing I'm going to do is build the verandas and also put in the windows and get it ready for the roofing and the outside cladding. And give us a subscribe and a like on the channel, and I'll see you next time.